Hi everybody, welcome back to another episode in our Nano Low-Tech Reef Tank series. Today we are going to be showing you guys how we do our maintenance and how we leave our tank while we're on vacation.
If you're new here, this is our 14-gallon Nano Reef. We've got no filter and no dosing. It's home to our 2 clownfish, Timo and Nemo, as well as some sexy shrimp, various corals, macroalgae, and rock flower anemones. If you want to watch how our tank got to this point, check out the other videos in our series. We just left our tank on vacation for a few weeks and we documented our cleaning routine and our tips and gadgets for leaving your tank.
One of the reasons that we made this as a low-tech and low-budget tank is we wanted to show people that it wasn't as complex as a lot of people make it out to be to make your very own saltwater tank. And tank maintenance is one area where people can do things very differently. Some people check their levels all the time, and some people only do water changes every month or so. There's a couple things to keep in mind when figuring out how you want to do your maintenance. If your tank is super high-tech, unlike ours, you might not have to do maintenance as often. If we had a reef bot that was keeping track of everything and dosing things for us, we could go months without a water change, or just need to top off with fresh water every so often. But in a tank like ours, where we aren't testing the water or dosing with nutrients, we need to be more on top of our maintenance.
Also, the smaller your tank is, the more frequently you might have to do maintenance. In a large tank, a small spike in nitrate from a slight overfeeding could go completely unnoticed. But in a small tank like ours, a small spike in nitrate could be disastrous. In our tank, we don't have the extra surface area from a filter, and we also don't have the extra water that you might get from a sump, so we try to stay on top of our water changes. We do maintenance every 2 weeks, and we haven't missed a single one yet. If you're new to saltwater, this is our recommendation. 20% water change every 2 weeks, and consistency is key.
Okay, so here's how we do it. First, we get some clean salt water ready. Lately, we've been picking it up from our local fish store, pre-mixed. We used to mix our own, but since we only live 15 minutes away from the local fish store, it's so much more convenient to do it this way. And since we don't have an RODI filter, it's cheaper for us anyways than to buy the distilled water, buy the salt, mix it together, and do all of that.
To start our maintenance off, we pause the wavemaker and clean the glass. We go in with a razor scraper on the glass to get all those stubborn bits of algae off. We like our glass crystal clear, so we try to pay close attention during this part. Some people will leave a magnetic aquarium scraper inside the tank, but since our tank is so small, we don't really want that excess clutter. If you like our razor scraper, we'll link it below along with some of the other maintenance tools and things that we use.
And this is also when we'll usually trim back our macroalgae or corals that are getting a little bit too big. So far, we've only had to cut back our red macroalgae and our pulsing xenia. We sell or give the frags away.
Now that we've scraped the tank down, we're going to have a bunch of algae floating loose in the water column. We don't want this to just settle somewhere else and start spreading, so this is a perfect time to do our 20% water change. We use this pump siphon to start the flow of water into our bucket. We use a bucket that's exactly 2.5 gallons, and it's the same size bucket that we use for adding our clean salt water. This way, we know that the amount of water that we remove will be the exact same as the amount that we're going to add back in. We're using the intake of the siphon to try and snag every bit of loose floating algae. And with that done, we can add our clean salt water back.
We hoist the bucket of clean water above our tank, then run the siphon from it to our tank, slowly adding in our new water.
Every month or so, we also clean out our pump. It's a Higer Mini wavemaker, and we go into the cleaning a little bit more in our review of this pump, so check out that video if you're curious. But don't wait until your wavemakers are dead to clean them. Prevention is key.
For the first day or two after a water change, we add a sponge to the wavemaker to trap any of the extra algae that we missed. We then remove it and wash it thoroughly.
Although lately this has been a little bit of an issue because we just got a turbo snail that knocks the sponge off our filter, so we might stop doing that.
And that's it. Super easy, super fast water change. Takes us about 15 minutes. We do that every 2 weeks or right before we have to go on vacation. So let's talk about how we leave our tanks when we need to go on a trip.
Going on vacation can be a big challenge with reef tanks, okay? They require a lot of maintenance. If something goes wrong, you won't be there to fix it. There's a few main concerns anytime that you have to leave your reef tank behind.
Number one is food. How are your animals going to get fed while you're gone? This is the most pressing concern because most animals can't go more than a few days without food.
Number 2 is salinity. Over time, fresh water evaporates from your tank and the salt is left behind, so your salinity levels are going to rise as the water level goes down. If you aren't there to top off your tank with fresh water, then this change in salinity can hurt your fish and corals.
And number 3 is water changes. If you're gone for a long time, so in our case for more than 2 weeks, we might suffer consequences of no maintenance such as algae blooms and a spike in nitrate levels.
So what can you do to stop these? Well, there's 2 options, right? You can have a friend come and pet sit, or you can turn towards automation.
First off is pet sitting. When we went on vacation for the first time, we asked a few friends to come over every other day to feed our fish. This was somewhat challenging because the average person is not very familiar with tank care, so we had to write up a list of things that they needed to do. And to prevent overfeeding, we needed to portion the food out in advance. We didn't have anyone top off the tank since we were worried that this might be a little bit too complex. This worked pretty well, with most of our fish and coral being okay.
However, we had a beautiful bubble tip anemone that died while we were away. We came back at the perfect time to do a water change and prevent the spike in toxins from wiping out our tank, but it could have been really, really bad. Since we weren't there, we couldn't diagnose exactly what went wrong, but we won't be getting another bubble tip until we're sure that we aren't traveling for a long time. And we're not going to ask friends to look after the tank unless they're more familiar with reef tanks in case we need them to intervene more seriously. If we hadn't come home when we did, they would not have been able to do that water change for us and remove those toxins to protect the rest of our reef tank.
So after that experience, the last few times we've traveled, we've set up some automation. The first thing we did was get an automated fish feeder. We got it on Amazon for $9 and it's great for the price. The link is in the description with everything else. It's battery powered and can feed for once or twice a day. The amount it dispenses can be kind of large depending on your tank size, so you can put a strip of tape to control the output a bit better. A few days before your trip, make sure you test it on a piece of paper or something to see how much food is being dispensed each day. And you need to train your fish to respond to it before you leave. We ran the auto feeder for about 4 days before we left the trip so that we can keep an eye on it to see how it was doing. For our later trips, we've been setting it up a day or 2 before we leave.
Next up, to solve the salinity issue, we got an auto top-off. We got this on Amazon for $50. It has this sensor here, which detects the water level. When the water falls below a certain level, it triggers a pump to dispense fresh water into the tank. We keep the pump underneath the tank in this old pretzel jar filled with distilled water. Sometimes critters like snails can cover the sensor, which could flood your tank uncontrollably with fresh water. So to prevent this while we're gone, we took a takeout sauce cup and we put it over the sensor with some small holes poked in it so water can flow in and out freely, but animals cannot directly cover the sensor.
The longest we've gone on vacation so far with this automated setup is a little bit over 2 weeks, and we've had no issues. We just make sure to do a water change as soon as we get home.
So that's how we go on vacation with a reef tank. What do you guys think? Can we still call it a low-tech tank now that we have an auto top-off on there?
What are your methods for going on vacation, and what do your water change schedules look like? Have any tips, tricks, or questions?
Share them down in the comments, and make sure to hit that like and subscribe button if you enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching, guys, and we will see you in the next video.
Bye!
Bye!